Hey guys, welcome to True Sovereignty, where we're mastering our minds so we can reclaim our peace. Today I want to discuss why you might struggle to make friends. On this channel, I've discussed a few times about loneliness, but I kind of framed it in a way where I kind of presented information to teach you how to make friends, make connections with people. I also made a video kind of talking about how I thought that the loneliness epidemic is kind of bullshit, although it has some merit in certain situations or circumstances. But I want to frame it in a different way today to give a little bit more insight or a different perspective on why you might actually struggle to make friends. So let's get into it. If you're curious, a lot of what I say, I actually pull from experience. So a lot of it is coming from me, from when I was lonely and I struggled to make friends. I can think of a time specifically in my freshman year of college. I was obviously kind of fresh out of high school and didn't really know how to make friends, didn't know anyone in the area, never lived in that area prior, so I really struggled hard. And one of the biggest reasons that I struggled so hard as a freshman in college, which I'm sure all of us do, is that I was incredibly insecure. I didn't know who I was or who I wanted to be. I didn't have values and principles to live by, or a moral compass, or really anything to latch on to say, hey, this is me and this is who I can be authentically. So when you can't be who you authentically are, we wear a mask. So that mask is not truly who you are. And unfortunately, if you have to wear a mask, that means that there's something beneath that mask that you're trying to hide. Whether it's that you're just ashamed of yourself and who you truly are, or you're ashamed of your shadow. And your shadow, for me, my shadow was maybe defensiveness and anger issues that I just didn't know how to overcome. And I never knew what shadow work was or any of that. So that is why when we are insecure and we have low self-esteem, we struggle to make new friends in a new area, totally not knowing anybody, because we can't be our authentic selves. And then on top of that, you're worrying too much about what they're thinking about you. You're worrying too much that they're thinking bad thoughts about you. And that's just a projection. You're projecting what you feel for yourself and thinking that they feel the same exact way. The truth is, or the way to get around this, is to do your shadow work. Accept who you truly are, flaws and all. Love yourself unconditionally. And then you're not gonna give a fuck about what other people think about you. And in that, you'll become more confident, more self-assured, and ready to go out there and talk to almost anybody. To kind of piggyback off of that, you might be in survival mode. So a lot of the times when we don't do our shadow work, we're stuck in survival mode. So survival mode has many symptoms. So the way that you can tell if you're in survival mode, a big one is you have resentment within you. There's someone you haven't forgiven. There's some situation that you just cannot let go of. You still live from your trauma, and you still have these defense mechanisms, so you can be very defensive. Sometimes we're angry or emotional and we don't know what to do with those emotions. it also affects our empathy. And when our empathy is affected, most of the time we're thinking about ourselves, we're not thinking about the other person, which can then kind of cause a domino effect of bad behaviors coming from our end. And we also are more likely to choose people who aren't good for us to hang out with anyway. So even if you did go out and make friends or try to find a partner, you might not be choosing the wrong people simply because you are in a state of survival mode. Piggybacking off of that, do you leave your house? Do you leave your house? Do you approach strangers? Can you talk to people easily that you do not know? Do you step outside of your comfort zone? Do you have a third space? All of these things are going to put you in the line of fire to meet people, friends, relationships, acquaintances. You know, you don't have to go out there and join a third space and say, I'm going to meet my best friend, I'm going to meet my partner, I'm going to meet this, and this. You have to have no expectations, go out and just talk to people. You don't have to be best friends with these people automatically right off the bat. You can just talk to people. A lot of the times it's just practice. If you look at it as, hey, this is just practice. I'm not expecting to meet somebody that we're gonna have long, deep conversations with. I'm just gonna go out and practice. And when you have that low of an expectation, a lot of the time, you'll just end up meeting somebody who does click with you and who you are willing to be friends with on another level other than just within that third space. But if your friends stay within that third space, that's okay too. Because the goal here is, and why we want to make friends and connections is because we are social creatures. And our mental health, a big part of our mental health, is connecting with others on an almost daily basis, even if it's just a simple interaction with a cashier. It doesn't have to be every day, but a little bit every day will help you more than nothing at all. So for me, in my personal experience, I'm even a little bit more introverted. I like to be alone, but I have gone out and made friends and connections, and even if I'm not hanging out with my friends on a day, I will still try to go out and talk to the cash register. The cash register. I'll try to talk to the cashier instead of using self-checkout, or I'll say hello to a random stranger. And it just kind of keeps refreshing me to interact with people and keeps reminding me that human interaction is good for me. As long as the interaction is positive and lifts me up and brings me brighter spirits. Relationships take a lot of effort. Just like any relationship, family, romantic, friendships take effort. We always put our friendships on the back burner, especially when we get into relationships. But the thing is, you don't want to do that, okay? This is not like, let me make friends until I can meet my person type of a deal. You want your own friends before you meet your person. You want your own life, your own foundation before you meet your person. But let's be honest, the truth is, if you really want something, you will get it. You will find it. You will find a way to achieve it. And don't get me wrong, there's some things that are a tiny bit out of our control. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if it's something that you truly want really badly, you're going to get it. So I say to that, maybe you just don't want friends. So if you're watching this video trying to figure out why you're struggling to make friends, you might just not really want them. And the reason I say that is because if you want friends, you will take the baby steps to make friends. I know it's not so easy for everybody to make friends, but like I said, even just having small conversations in a third space, in a space where you have things in common with other people, especially if it's a very niche thing, you're gonna find common ground. You might not agree with everything everyone says, but that doesn't mean you can't be friends or you can't be acquaintances. Relationships take effort. They take consistency. They take dedication. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't actually want a friendship. And that's okay. It's okay to not want friends. It's okay to not want more friends. It's okay to reject friendship altogether. But it's not okay to continue to play victim and to feel bad for yourself or to ask why you're lonely or to blame society for your issue. So if you're feeling lonely and you're feeling sad and you're wondering why you're not getting this external validation, meaning maybe people don't like you or you're finding it hard to make friends or you're getting ghosted all the time, the reason might be because you don't actually want it. Maybe what you want is to love yourself and to get to know yourself, or to become deeper, more deeply connected with the people who are already in your life. So maybe take the time to focus on yourself and the people that you already have in your life and see if that brings you comfort rather than going out and meeting new people. Maybe you're too busy for new friends. Maybe you're too busy to go out and maybe you're too busy to stay consistent in friendships. Maybe that's why you have trouble making friends. Because, like I said prior, friendship does take effort and consistency. You can't just expect to only hang with someone once a month and still be friends. You can't just ignore people and continually cancel plans and expect people to want to continue to ask to hang out. That's not a viable thing to expect for people to deal with and put up with. So you're either going to be consistent or you're not. And that's going to tell people what they mean to you in your life. And inconsistency typically means I don't really care about you. So if you are too busy and you literally cannot find the time to make friends, you can either dial that back and become less busy in some way, shape, or form, or you should accept that you just are too busy to make friends right now. We all have periods where we have to stay in isolation. Maybe we want to build a business. Maybe we want to grow a family. And you know what? Family, business, it does take away from our friendships, even the ones that we've already cultivated over a long period of time. So if you're asking yourself, why am I lonely? When I have a family or I have my business and my networking connections, well, it might be because you're too busy to go on a deeper level. And in saying that, you can either accept it and maybe think of it as a temporary period of your life where you're just going to be working on your endeavors instead of making friendly connections or deep connections. Or you can change your level of productivity. You can do that. That is possible. You are allowed to do that. But if you just can't, maybe you need to work really hard to make money to pay the rent, whatever it may be. Just try to see it as temporary, a temporary situation. Look to change it. And hopefully someday you'll be able to give your time and attention to the people in your life that matter to you. Something to question if you're constantly losing friends or getting ghosted, or friendship seems to start off really well and then you kind of fall off with people and you don't know why. You are the common denominator, so it's time to question. Are you immature? Do you have concerning behaviors? Do you take care of yourself? So are you immature? Are you a 35-year-old person, 40-year-old person, or even 25-year-old, and the people around you kind of seem repulsed by you at a certain point in time? Maybe you can start friendships and connections, but they just never last. And that might be because you're immature and you have concerning behaviors. When we are immature, unfortunately, it is hard to become not immature. It's hard to become mature when you're immature. Why is that? Because we're not self-aware when we're immature. And in fact, we actually think the opposite. We actually think we know everything and that we're invincible, and our ego is pretty much telling us that we are, a 10 out of 10, like people should love us. The thing is, when you're mature, for someone like me, I know I'm not a 10 out of 10. I know not everybody's gonna like me. I know that I can be wrong sometimes, and I know when it's time to take accountability. And people respect that way more than if you were just like, no, I'm not wrong, I'm never wrong. Behaviors like this don't attract people, and they don't keep people around. The thing is, immature people can be good people, they can be great people, they can be funny, magnetic, charismatic, but they cannot hold down long-term types of relationships, whether platonic, romantic, or familial, because their behaviors are affecting the people around them. And I had to learn this the hard way when I was younger, absolutely, we all do. A lot of the time, unfortunately, what takes us out of immaturity, and especially in the Western world where we don't have a lot of hardships in life, don't get me wrong, we do, but a lot of our life is very cushy. In a cushy life, we don't get as many wake-up calls as maybe somebody with a more difficult life. So a lot of the times we get wake-up calls in the form of, there's nobody around. There's nobody in my life. Why is that? And it might be because you're pushing people away with your bad behaviors or with your embarrassing actions. Do you get way too drunk at parties and do stupid shit? You have to question yourself. You have to ask yourself why, over and over and over again. You have to always constantly be checking yourself. And if you don't, you are going to start doing things on autopilot. And a lot of the times when we are on autopilot, we're not making the best decisions. And then, are you taking care of yourself? Do you have good hygiene? Are you able to go places with people? Are you able to go outside and do things with people? I understand that some people are handicapped, they can't help it. But is there a way that you can either be with people who are similar to you in that aspect, or find people who accept you? Because you can do both. But for instance, let's say you are a person in a wheelchair, which is perfectly fine. But you're trying so hard to be friends with people who are trying to climb Mount Everest. Unless you're preparing to also do that, despite the fact that you are in a wheelchair, those people might not have a lot of time to spend with you. It doesn't mean that they don't like you, but maybe you just chose the wrong people to hang out with. So I always say, try to go for people who share your interests and are very similar to who you are as a person as well. So this is the last point I'll make, and it's just a very common thing that we hear these days, and it's the topic of being neurodivergent. Social anxiety, ADHD, autism, all of these things can contribute to difficulty making friends. And of course, it depends on the scale at which you are one of these things. You know, some people are on the lower end, some people are on the higher end. And all I can say to that is, yet again, try to find a community that either accepts you for who you are, and just try over and over and over again with different communities, see where you fit in the best, or try to fit in with people who are very similar to you. We can find these communities online, or we can find a club nearby in the area. You may have to move, I'm not sure. But there are ways around it. And not only that, especially for people with social anxiety or any other type of lacking of social skills, typically we can overcome these challenges through practice. Not one single person on this planet is born with good social skills. You know, look at children. They run around and they just shout what they think all the time with no filter. You know, they might be good at talking at you, but are they good at listening? Are they good at understanding? Are they good at using a filter? Are they good at reading a room? No, children are not. And we forgive them. Why? Because they're new on the planet. They just got here. And we forgive them because they're cute, they're innocent. And so if you kind of look at yourself like that, okay, maybe you're good at math, but you're not very good at talking to people. You can learn it, okay? For me, it's the other way around. I'm horrible at math, but I'm good at talking to people. So, could I become good at math? Yes. Have I had teachers who have actually taught me ways to perform mathematical equations in a way that I understand and can comprehend? Yes, absolutely. And even though it's fairly impossible for me to ever be good at math, at the very least, I can use tools and techniques to kind of help me get around certain things. So it's the same with social skills. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the most charismatic. A lot of the time, if you are open, non-judgmental, friendly, warm with a smile, and funny, witty, you can capture anybody's heart and gain somebody's attention and find connection somewhere. Common ground with someone. And you just have to understand it's not impossible. It is possible, and you can overcome certain maybe social skills that you find to be more challenging. For instance, let's say you just never were good at keeping a conversation going and you always had awkward silences. The best way to overcome an awkward silence is to pause and then ask the person a question about themselves. Always have a few questions ready. You don't have to recite them like a robot. That's kind of like the opposite of a charisma, is reciting it like a robot. So be genuinely interested. Genuinely want to know. Because what are you interested in? Maybe ask them if they're interested in that too. Maybe try to relate it back to whatever you were talking about prior, so it doesn't seem totally out of the blue, but you're allowed to be out of the blue sometimes. That's okay. So that's kind of a way to get around something without necessarily having to be an expert or the most charismatic person on the planet. So the reason I wanted to frame all of these possible things in this way is because if you see yourself in any of these things, and you know you're having trouble making friends, and you know you truly want friendship and connection, if you see yourself in any of these traits or any of these things I've mentioned, just know it's possible to overcome them. And I'll give you a great example, because I know one of my biggest challenges in making friends in freshman year of college was that I was insecure. I didn't want to join clubs. I just wanted to sit inside and smoke weed all the time. So I had no motivation to go out and do stuff with people. And it's like, I knew what I had to do, I just didn't want to do it. I just didn't have the motivation. And the thing was, I had friends back home, I just didn't have friends in college. So I would kind of blame other people or just cry about it that I didn't have any friends. This was like 10 years ago. And it took 10 years later for me to finally figure out. It took me to live in the middle of nowhere with literally no friends, not even nearby, for me to get the motivation to join a club, get a new hobby, go out, put myself out there, get out of my comfort zone, talk to random strangers and have conversations even when I didn't feel like talking, and just be genuinely interested in people and listen to people and be compassionate. But this came after, again, 10-year span. This came after doing all that learning and inner work and shadow work. It came after all of that. So the faster that you can do that, I'm not saying it takes 10 years, it doesn't take 10 years. It just took me that long to realize that's what I needed to do to become confident and authentic. There's some deer over here. But it took me that long. So I'm telling you right now, you don't have to wait that long. You could do it now. You can become your authentic self now. You can do the shadow work. And hello. Why are you staring at me? Okay. Bye-bye. I am comfortable in my own skin, so I can even make videos and look at my fucking face editing these videos, I used to try to make YouTube videos before, and I was a little cringed out by my own self, so it never went anywhere. Now I can look at myself on the camera, and even if I'm like annoying myself in the editing software, or I'm just like, damn, I did not look good in that video, I don't care. I don't really care, because I'm that comfortable in my skin. I know, I like the way I look. I know my level of attractiveness. I'm not the most beautiful person on the planet, and I'm not ugly. And that's all I can say, But I like who I am. I like who I'm becoming. I'm proud of where I come from. And even if I feel like I don't look perfect in a video, I'm gonna post it anyway, because I think what is inside is valuable. And I think someone needs to hear these messages. And that's kind of how far I've come. And you can too. You don't need to take 10 years to do it. You can just do it because you decide you want to. So that's it for me. If you have any other comments, questions, concerns, and or commentary, please feel free to comment below. If you like these types of videos, my videos are kind of like about mental health and cultivating a content and peaceful life. And, my parents didn't teach me these things. I taught them to myself. I went to hell and back, and I survived, and I taught myself everything I know. And that's why I want to help others. I feel like the next stage in my life is helping others, and that's what this YouTube channel is for. So, like, comment, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.